Hey, it's Big Guy DIY Robert coming to you with a actually relatively short video. But as you can see, we are having our first snowstorm in 2 years based on where I live in the state of Connecticut. So I haven't used my snowblower in 2 years. And I brought it down from my back shed, which I do have a mouse trap, big huge mouse trap up there, and I get mice all the time in it, but I don't get 100% of the mice. Son of a bitch. That's a big ass nest. So the thing is, you should check your snowblower before you go and run it. I had stuff blowing out everywhere as I was bringing the snowblower down. So what I need to do, obviously, is remove the nest with a vacuum, and then I'm going to clean up the magnets because these are pretty well rusted. I've never had to do that because I've always had good spark all this time, but with the nest being there, I'm sure it's a good thick rust. So if I clean those up, I'm going to get a much better spark out of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up as a regular video versus time-lapse, because there's a little involved in getting this off, getting the cover off, getting the Carburator off, and then all the different attachments. So one thing you can see here is I did not detach, is that's the primer line, which is still in very good shape. No cracks or anything like that, so I'm just going to leave that. But there's other things in here that I had to take off in order to get my cover off. But give you an idea how these mice get in here. They were coming in through here, back of the cowling, and then going up and building its nest. And my backyard has a lot of moss, so this is what all it is. I don't think I have a mouse in there. We'll find out. If so, I'll suck it up with a vacuum cleaner, shop vac. So let's set the camera up and we'll start working on this. This snowblower, excuse me, has electric start. The starter's on the back side here. And all starters, for the most part, so let me rephrase that. Most starters, not all, have a sleeve that pulls out. So when you start it, the sleeve pulls out, turn your main gear, turn your engine over, and then once you stop or disengage the starter, that sleeve pulls back. And once in a while, that sleeve will not want to slide in and out. So what I'm using here, greaseless multi-use lubricant. This stuff works really good. Honest, I have no idea where I bought this. I think I bought it at my local hardware store. But what I do, I pull the sleeve out so the gear's engaged. I spray in behind it. And then turn it. So will slide in and out. Even if it gets really cold outside, it won't freeze. It'll still slide. So on my main ring gear here, I'm gonna put this on here. This is for saltwater use, but why I use it, totally waterproof. Won't wash out or wash off. So I'm just going to apply that to the teeth here, just using a paintbrush. It doesn't have to be goop down there. Gooped in the sense of like heavily coated. Just needs a relatively average coat, thin coat. The model of this snowblower, it's a Toro Power Max 826 LE. I bought this in 2005. And the only thing I've ever had gone wrong with it is the main bearing between the impeller and the motor down below. So in a repair like that, I did it before I started my YouTube channel. You have to separate your front intake housing from the main housing of the snowblower, and then from there you gotta pull out the bearing and replace it. Wasn't a simple job, to be honest with you. Took a little time, and what made it more difficult is Toro does not use grease fittings on their cutter, and so one side I couldn't get the axle out, and you kind of need to get the axle out to make that work. But through a little finagling, I was able to do it. I'm just going to put a little thin layer here using my thumb over the magnets, just to reduce the chance of the rust. Let's see here. This is where the hole start is engaged, so we're going to put some in here. There. We're done with that. So wanted to show one thing. One of my Christmas gifts my kids gave me. I never even thought of it at the time, and I've seen this product around for a long time. A lot of auto mechanics use it, but it just never dawned on me that I would need it. You can see it right here. It's these magnetic dishes. They just, and this is the cool thing about it, is holds your bolts. I had the dish sitting on the cowling for the carburetor, and it had fallen over twice, and I didn't lose any of my screws except for one screw, which is not, it's aluminum. Everything else is metal, and it stayed in there, like I said. So if you do your own work, this is kind of nifty. You're not in use, just stick it on the side of your toolbox. It'll stay there. So it came in a pack of 4. And the funny thing is I used first time I used this was yesterday. I had to pull a battery out of my truck because the battery failed. All right. So the next thing I have to do is I have to put all this back together in reverse. So that's why I thought I'll record it. There are 4 bolts that hold the pull start housing on. There are 2 small bolts here, another small bolt that holds this, which I should not have taken off. This is a grounding mechanism. This is for the, what do you call it, the key. Craftsman calls it a safety key. It goes in like this, so it allows you to start your motor. Pull it out and your motor won't start because it's grounding out right here. 2 here. There's a bolt in the front. I think that's it. So to put it back together, the first thing I got to put on is the cowling, because this attaches to the cowling. It is also my throttle at the same time. There is one thing I want to do before I put this cowling back on, is I want to clean up all the poop and pee from the mice in there, because I had removed this cowling and had resprayed it, repainted it. So let me go and clean this up quickly. So first thing I have to do is I got to reattach my primer bulb line. When you put this on, you have to be conscious of where your throttle's coming from. Not throttle, your fuel line. So my fuel line from my gas tank is right here. This is my primer. I don't like the location of it right now, so we're going to change it. I want it to go underneath this. My throttle cable's got to be above it. cable's up. That's below. So when I took this off, I took careful note of the length of the bolts, because they're two different lengths. The top part takes a longer threaded bolt, the bottom, which is down here, and on the opposite side, on the bottom, takes a shorter thread. So before we put this in, put it back on, put a little grease on it so it will not corrode in place. Also be cautious of your, or conscious or cautious of your spark plug wire, and it doesn't get pinched. So, still free to move. Alright, we're bolted back on. Next I'm going to reattach the starter. Now these here, they got a thin thread designed to it. They don't go on tight, they just go on snug. I'm not going to put any grease on them because this one's already stripped. And I know I don't have a screw that's like this to replace it. So when you screw these in, just do it where they're just snug. It might back out a little, that's okay. Where's my screwdriver wrench? So it's just the back one, it stays tight. Next, my throttle. So before I unhooked it, I looked at which hole, because there's 5 holes total, which hole it went into. Then these are held in with really tiny screws. I don't even know if you could catch it on camera. They're dinky screws. So I found when you put these in, use a magnetic tip to hold the screw in place. Of course, it's not holding it. So we're just going to put it in the hole and then guide it in. I'm not going to crank it tight just yet because I got to do the bottom one. Be sure your throttle arm is up and not down, because this will fall down. That switch that goes here is key, so there are 2 thumbs, little notches that stick up, so it keeps it aligned so the key will fit in there properly. Now I get the back secured, the key, safety key is secured. One thing I did on my snowblower, factory doesn't, this is a foam pad I had. It's from my snowmobile, and when I'm doing a really powdery snow, I tend to get a lot of ingested snow into the carb. So I cut this out to fit right over this. Like so. I'll come in closer on this for you. So with doing that, I'm not ingesting any snow dust. But this still is quite breathable. It's designed as an intake for the intake foam on a snowmobile. So that's why I put it on. And I know it breathes quite easily. So I squirted some of that multi-grease or multi-greaseless stuff on here. I'm going to reinstall this. All right, we are back together. The only thing I am missing, and it's somewhere underneath the snowblower or along the outer edge because my tray fell over. I got one screw that goes in here, and that's it. We are fully assembled. Oops. So that's how you take if you reverse the process, that's how you remove the cowling and the cover to a Toro snowblower, a 26 LE, to remove the mouse nest that's underneath the cowling. I think next year I'm going to wrap the top of this motor with a tarp or something to try to prevent them from getting inside there, because this is the second time this has happened. So this is Big Guy DIY Robert signing off. This is kind of a raw video, trying to do it in one shot, a little easier, less editing. So don't forget to subscribe down below. If this was helpful at all, just give me a thumbs up, and see you in the next video.